Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing, and we are the weekly rundown of what we're watching, which may become what you're watching. We come at you every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time on stevestebbing.ca. Chloe's off this week, dealing with some family stuff, so it's just solo Steve, and I got some fun stuff. I was really busy at the theaters and saw 3 movies in theaters this weekend, including a double bill on Saturday, which was good and not great, but let's get into it. That's right, a few fresh ones this week, and we're going to kick off with a film where I'm wrestling with giving the synopsis even, so it may be ignore it. This is Companion. A weekend getaway with friends at a remote cabin turns into chaos after it's revealed that one of the guests is a robot companion. Starring Sophie Thatcher, Jack Quaid, Lucas Gage, Megan Suri, Harvey Guillen, and Rupert Friend. Written and directed by Drew Hancock. This is, I called it in my Letterboxd review, a totally diabolical film. The best setup for this movie is to go in absolutely blind in every way. Don't read anything. Heck, that the synopsis I gave, like I said, might have been a little too much. But this film, without going into any depth what the actual story is about, I will say that Sophie Thatcher is continuing a really great leading role trend with Heretic and this film. She's hitting the genre films quite well. She's about to continue the ball rolling with another season of Yellow Jackets, which premieres on well, the day that this podcast is released. February 14th is the first episode of season 3. But also, I have to say that Jack Quaid is kicking a lot of ass after, Scream and, of course, The Boys. And he has this film and Novocaine in a couple months. I think it's in April, that film. So good to see him hitting the leading role stuff really well. And I really love Harvey Guillen, of course, What We Do in the Shadows, which I just finished, which I will bring to this podcast at a later date. And I mean, another guy is having a strong year this year, Lucas Gage, with this film and Smile 2. Very, very different roles. And Megan Suri, It Lives Inside, an Indo-American made film. And she was also in Missing and Never Have I Ever, which is a series by Mindy Kaling that I really liked. So the cast is really working in this film. Like it's well put together. Rupert Friend doing some absolute character work. Playing going on to some a little bit of prosthetics and with a thick accent, but he's a very interesting character in this one. And this is the debut of Drew Hancock. It was actually supposed to be Zach Kreger at one point. This was going to be his follow-up to Barbarian, but instead they handed it off to Drew Hancock for his feature debut. And Eli Bourne shot this film. It looks really, really great. There's some really interesting shots in this film. He probably be most known for David Bruckner's Hellraiser remake a couple of years ago. The only bad thing I can say about this film is the ad campaign giving away any twist to this film whatsoever. This is something that you relish that moment, that you relish those big twists and those big reveals, and that's your bread and butter for this one. So if Warner wanted to look at how not to do it, Abigail last year should have kept their twist under wraps, and I think that movie would have been far bigger than it was. Still a great film, but I will say this is one of the best thrillers of the year, and it's not too overly gory, so I think you could trick a lot of non-horror fans into enjoying this film because, like I said at the top of the review, is pretty diabolical. All right, let's move on to a genre shift. We're going to do some more Valentine's Day, I guess, themed films. So, what do you do with a Valentine's Day film? You don't release it on Valentine's Day. You'll release it the week before, apparently. But I was looking forward to this one. Maybe the emergence of a new action hero. This one's Love Hurts. A realtor is pulled back into the life he left behind after his former partner in crime resurfaces with an ominous message. With his crime lord brother also on his trail, he must confront his past and the history he never fully buried. Starring Ke Huy Quan, Ariana DeBose, Daniel Wu, Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch, Mustafa Shakir, Leo Tipton, Reese Darby, Andre Erickson, and Sean Astin. Directed by Jonathan Eusebio. I mean, face it, I'm an 80s kid at heart, so I was always a fan of Ke Huy Quan because of Goonies, because of Temple of Doom. Data and Short Round were huge child characters in my childhood, for sure. So it's really exciting to see him get his first lead in an American action film. It's also cool that Sean Astin is part of this cast as well. So you get just essentially just one scene of reunion 40 years later. So that's kind of cool. But I mean, Ke Huy Quan gets to do a big John Wick style 87 North production, like David Leitch and crew. And it like that's the kind of energy I had going into this film. And Key is fantastic in this film. He's really, really, really great. His action scenes are great. He leans into what's great about him. It's just really unfortunate that nothing else in this film works. Aside from some flashy action sequences, which are tied together with basic slop, basically wet paper mache. Like, we've seen this story before. It's all predictable. Marshawn is having a little bit of fun in it. He's kind of enjoyable. And Mustafa Shakir is just an interesting looking actor. The first time I saw him was in Cowboy Bebop, the live action series with John Cho. And when I saw him pop up in this one, I'm like, I know that actor. So I had to look it up and I was like, oh, okay. Like, it kind of clicked for me, but he's got such piercing eyes. And that's what has to get him noticed by casting directors like pretty immediately. So it makes his character a little bit interesting, the Raven, but not really. You know what I mean? Like it's all like super kind of cliched and likable performers. Like I like Leo Tipton, I like Reese Darby. Like they're all enjoyable actors, have been in better works, but Key's the only reason to watch this film. And that's kind of the long and short of it, unfortunately. Um, this is the debut of Eusebio as a director. He's a former stunt guy, so that's why the stunt scenes work so well. And they're a lot of fun and well executed, but I don't know, it's just a miss. I haven't really felt Ariana DeBose, except ISS was good, but I haven't really felt her in anything else. And the way they deal with Sean Astin, it just felt wrong and weird. I don't know. It just, I don't know. There's just a lot about this film that doesn't work. Even as a no-brainer action film, this one's really hard to recommend, as it really doesn't have anything going for it besides Key's charm, which only can keep it afloat so long, which is crazy when you think that this film is only an hour and 23 minutes long, and still I felt it could have ended before that. Like, I was kind of done with it. Maybe next time. I really feel that there is like an action hero subgenre within Ke Huy Quan. They just need to find a better written one. All right, let's move on back to the thriller horror genre for something better. This is Josh Rubin's new flick. This is Hard Eyes. For the past several years, the Heart Eyes killer has wreaked havoc on Valentine's Day by stalking and murdering romantic couples. This Valentine's Day, no couple is safe. Starring Olivia Holt, Mason Gooding, Gigi Zimbardo, Michaela Watkins, Devon Sawa, and Jordana Brewster. Directed by Josh Rubin. And Josh Rubin is a guy that I have really liked for a long time, going back to the College Humor days on YouTube. and the short-lived MTV show. And I really enjoyed Scare Me a lot, which is like an original idea. And then the game adaptation of Werewolves Within, which I thought was a lot of fun as well. I was really like I saw the trailer for Heart Eyes and I really thought it was a super effective trailer. I didn't really pay attention to any of the credits in it. So heading into opening weekend for this film, I was putting the list together and I went, "Oh shit, this is a Josh Rubin film," and I had no freaking clue. So that amped up my excitement for this film, which I took in as a double bill. I did Love Hurts first, and then I did this film. So I was amped up to see hopefully a better movie, and plus it was Devon Sawa's return to mainstream horror, so I'm definitely into that. I will say Olivia Holt is new to me. This was her star maker for me, and I thought she held the lead role in a slasher film quite well. Mason Gooding has experience. He has Scream movies in his rear view. Like he's kind of had his slasher marks made. But he's great in this film. I really enjoyed the rom-com aspect without these two characters, which is a genre that doesn't usually have a foothold with me. But this film, I honestly thought it worked. And I have to bring up Michaela Watkins as Olivia Holt's character's boss, who just seems to just use every piece of a great snappy script and make it her own, and she's just awesome in it. There's one red herring scene that she does that I just thought was really funny and overdone, and only she can do that so well, especially also with that hair and that wardrobe. Just fantastic. I want to make mention Stephen Murphy, who did the cinematography for this film. This film looks really great at all time, taking a lot of great iconic cues and just adding another notch to the slasher genre. I'll always give hats off to that kind of stuff. And the writer of this film, Michael Kennedy, one of the three writers, Christopher Landon would have been the other one. But Michael Kennedy wrote Freaky, he wrote It's a Wonderful Knife, and he wrote Time Cut on Netflix recently. And the aforementioned Christopher Landon also directed Freaky and the Happy Death Day movies. So it is in a good horror stock that we get, like kind of like between a tight collaborative team, like another great horror film. So I'm really pumped on that. There are buckets of gore to be had in this film. So if the date is squeamish on that kind of stuff or not into horror, that kind of stuff might be a hard sell, especially the opening scene, which gets particularly nasty. That said, most of the kills are super effective and cool looking. Some great dialogue and references. And there's a nod at the very beginning of the film to Scott Wampler, who is a podcaster. He created the King Cast, and he's also a film journalist. And he passed away last year. So, as a tight little nod to him, there's one at the very beginning of the film. So I thought that was pretty cool. But as a horror fan, I say it'd have to be in you to see a holiday horror film. And there's not too many Valentine's Day ones. So get this one in. All right, we're going to head down the drama route for the last two films to get into your eyeballs. Let's start off with the Irish drama, Bring Them Down. An Irish shepherding family thrust into battle on several fronts: internal strife, hostility within the family, rivalry with another farmer, paternalism heritage, and the generational trauma cycle through the cultural prism of Ireland. Starring Barry Keoghan, Christopher Abbott, Nora Jane Noon, Paul Reddy, Aaron Heffernan, Connor McNeil, Susan Lynch, and Cole Meany. Written and directed by Christopher Andrews. So Barry Keoghan, right away, if he's in a film, I'm generally coming out on the good side of it. I can't honestly offhand think of a bad Barry Keoghan film or performance. If there is one, I'll drop one in here. If there isn't one, there isn't one. Christopher Abbott, on the other hand just recently has kind of disappointed me as kind of being a little bit of a charisma vacuum performance, and that would be Craven the Hunter and Wolfman. Two films in the last 2 months, so two Hollywood films. So I was really pumped, even though he's not an English actor. I was really pumped that we were going to get some sort of an Irish character drama, and that's exactly what this film is. Um, Keoghan and Abbott both absolutely deliver in this film. It is a tete-a-tete of um, two very different dudes. One kind of bratty kid, played obviously by Barry Keoghan, and like the broody, quiet, mentally messed up that's harboring a dark sadness and a dark mistake in his past, played by Christopher Abbott, and he just works the dough of this character so well. Like, it is such a redemption for an actor, in my opinion. It's just so well done. An impressive debut feature from Christopher Andrews, who I really hope to see more from, because this film has like a quiet, slow burn to it, that hits levels of just crazy brutality that is honestly really, really hard to shake, and stuff that I've honestly never seen before. Um, this slightly reminded me of a Norwegian film called Rams that was remade unnecessarily, but the original Norwegian film is phenomenal. But yeah, I really, really dug this film. It's an Irish countryside thriller, that kind of broods in that character development, like and exposing the narrative through split narrative, through exposing the story through the split narrative of telling Christopher Abbott's character story and then Barry Keoghan's character story, and telling it that in a reverse way that's very interesting. Um, it should also be noted that originally, before Barry Keoghan and Christopher Abbott had to take over the roles, it was laid out for Paul Mescal and um, Tom Burke from Furiosa to take these roles, but they had to drop out when it was stuck in development. So, definitely an excellent film, and if you love those Irish slow burn films, I highly, highly recommend it. Let's move on to the last film of this segment, the return of a Canadian goddess to film. This is The Last Showgirl. A seasoned showgirl must plan for her future when her show abruptly closes after a 30-year run. Starring Pamela Anderson, Jamie Lee Curtis, Billy Lord, Dave Bautista, Brenda Song, and Kiernan Shipka. Directed by Gia Coppola, based on the book A Body of Work by Kate Gersten. I was really, really looking forward to this film, as this is kind of the re-debut in theatrically released films for Pamela Anderson. And it was so enticing just being a kid of the 90s, like a teen of the 90s. I loved Pamela Anderson. I snuck into Barbed Wire with my best friend, and bought tickets for another movie and snuck into that film. I did my due diligence when it came to Pam, and I was super happy that she was getting this film, and hopefully good things come out of it, although it doesn't look like awards will come out of it. But she is so phenomenal in this film. Her work with Jamie Lee Curtis is really great. And what a great scene partner to have in Jamie Lee Curtis, who also excels very much in this film as kind of the sad, completely faded showgirl that had to leave the stage behind for a long time and is now a slot attendant, and just soaked in alcohol. And I thought that her performance was so heartbreaking, Brenda Song and Kiernan Shipka are both really, really great in this. Um, but Dave Bautista absolutely comes through in this film as well. He's wearing a hairpiece in this movie that makes him look so much like Lou Diamond Phillips' brother that they should play brothers in a movie. Like they need to set this up. And once Lou Diamond Phillips is finished doing werewolf movies, if he's going to do any more of those Stephen Miller werewolf movies, I really hope there's no more. But yeah, I thought that was really great. And Dave's just improving as an actor, movie after movie, just getting better and better. So really like everything that he's doing. Gia Coppola, I don't really know anything from her. I didn't see Palo Alto. Don't really have too much interest in that one. I believe is written by James Franco, and I could kind of really care less about that one. But she did a film with Andrew Garfield that I'm not even sure got a full release or anything, called Mainstream, that I did want to see and I just never got around to. And then this film, and um I don't know. There's just stuff about this film that doesn't really work for me. I'll get to that in just a second here. But Autumn Durald Arkpaw has some really great shots. She's the cinematographer for this film. Has some really great shots, some great rooftop shots, and then stuff that just really did not work. And I have to boil it down to both Gia and Autumn on this one. Autumn was known for doing Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. She did some episodes of Loki, and then did the Elle Fanning pop singer film Teen Spirit. Because everything acting wise in this film really excels against not having the strongest script. Having a film that is a little bit predictable and you know where it's going. All the problems and all the aggressions are kind of laid out. You know where they're going to come from. Um, and some of the shots of this film, when I'm talking about the cinematography and the direction, felt so like B-roll, or that they were like just like, oh, just keep it, it'll be fine. A lot of lens flares and um basically like a lot of like sunshine washouts, especially in a lot of kitchen scenes within Pam's character's house, that just were frustrating. Were honestly frustrating. And I don't know, I just, if it has something, if it has an ugly light reflection or something in it, just don't use it, Gia. I don't know, you're a Coppola though. I really don't think I should have to tell you that. um yeah, I don't know, I had issues with that part was frustrating, and it kind of took away from the end product for me. um but Pam and Jamie Lee Curtis are the reasons to take this film in. I really hope it spurns um Pam on to do more films and take more chances, because given that she has good scene partners, it'll just bring her out more and more, because I believe her work with these great actors really helped Pam's performance a lot. um and the funny thing is, her agent had turned this script down without showing it to her, and then Pam's son Brandon came across the script by chance and got it to his mom. She read it and said she wanted to do the film, and then she fired her agent after it for not for saying no to this one. And Jamie Lee Curtis only signed on to the film because Pamela Anderson was doing it, so that's pretty cool. And I just wish the final product was better. It's not a terrible film, but it's just not everything that it could be. All right, I just have one. It's brand new this week on Blu-ray. I don't think anybody is going to be looking for it. Let's get to it. It's really nice ever so often to bring something small, something really indie to this segment, especially during release week. And I really kind of stumbled upon this one. It's a little film called In the Summers. On a journey that spans the formative years of their lives, two sisters navigate their loving but volatile father during their yearly summer visits to his home in Las Cruces, New Mexico, starring Renee Perez and Sasha Cali. Written and directed by Alessandra La Carraza Sumudio. So a big thing that threw the spotlight on this one for me is when I saw that it was being released, I went and kind of researched it and saw that it was certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's like a 92 or something like that. And I was really surprised because I had heard nothing about this film. But I figured I had to give it a shot. Sasha Cali is really the only person that I knew in this film. She was Supergirl in that really terrible Flash movie that I really want to forget all about, but I don't want to hold that all on her. She wasn't bad in the film; just the whole film itself was terrible. But the dad in this, Rene Perez, he's actually known as Residente. He's a multiple award-winning Puerto Rican rapper and has won more Grammys and Latin Grammys than any other artist. He's won 32 awards combined. That's pretty impressive, but an interesting story because I feel like there's like an ex gangbanger quality to his character in this one, like a reformed one that still has a hard time um resolving his anger issues, but he's also really smart at the same time as a tutor and all that stuff, which is like a very fascinating side to this story. But it's really like a story of of estrangement, but not estrangement, like trying to force that family atmosphere. Like he only sees these kids every summer, and every other time is just kind of quiet displacement. So to see that aspect portrayed with this trio of performers is really, really interesting. An impressive debut for Alessandra Locaraza. And it just kind of like a quiet and somber character piece of the three of these characters. That's just broken up by the passages of time and just focusing clearly on these summers. It might not be everybody's cup of tea on the mainstream side of it, but if you like the indie side of films, the issues in this film are not overdone, overwrought, like melodrama. They're very much bubbling under the surface. Also, the queerness that is in this film, because one character is gay, and to see the coming of age of that is really interesting, but handled with kind of a light touch, I thought. And the film, like, kind of in the end, reminded me of After Sun, in its filter of telling a coming of age story through kind of this, like the sadness and mental anguish of our adults that are supposed to take care of us, and just the clear and utter rawness of not being able to be on for your kids at all time. It's an interesting thing at play, and I think in the summers just kind of shows that through a filter that I don't think a lot of people could understand. Very well done film. All right, let's move on to what you can stream at home. The streaming pile this week, and we're going to kick off with something that is definitely there to just wet the whistle a bit while we wait for probably the final piece. This is The Witcher: Sirens of the Deep. Hired to probe seaside village attacks, mutant monster hunter Geralt unravels an age-old conflict between humans and sea people that threatens war between kingdoms. Aided by allies, he must solve the mystery before hostilities escalate. Featuring the voices of Doug Cockle, Joey Batty, Anya Chalotra, Christina Wren, and Emily Carey. Directed by Kang Hae Chul. Available on Netflix. Yes, Netflix is just trying to keep us a little tantalized with the story of Geralt. of Rivia right between Henry Cavill and Liam Hemsworth with a little animated story that features neither of them. Instead of this Doug Cockle guy is the voice of Geralt in this one. He's the one uttering fuck every now and then. And I don't know. This is largely a story that does involve a little bit of the backstory of one of my favorite characters, Yaskir, who is voiced by Joey Batty in this one. He does return to this one. And Anya Chalotra also reprises her role as Yennefer, really just kind of in really quick backstory bits. But it's really, I don't know, it felt like an absolute filler piece. This one's just keeping the audience interested in this whole franchise while they get everything on board to release a season 4. Whenever that comes out, I think this might be the final season that's coming out. This is Kang Hai Chul's debut film behind the proverbial camera, but he was one of the heads in the animation department on the last Witcher film, which was the prequel they did, was called Nightmare of the Wolf. I don't know. This is feels like a slight ripoff of Little Mermaid in parts. Like the writer's room was just like, I don't know, just do this. And it's really not integral to any sort of plot whatsoever. Maybe a little bit of Yaskier stuff that is so coincidental that it probably won't come up again. And just feels like it's only kind of for the hardcore show fans. I don't even know if the video game fans will really get into this one. I don't know, and it's not really impressive to look at as far as the film goes. So I don't know, it felt very middle of the road in my opinion. Let's move on to something that's animated and better animated. This is Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Fowl. Top dog Gromit springs into action to save his master when Wallace's high-tech invention goes rogue and he is framed for a series of suspicious crimes. Featuring the voices of Ben Whitehead, Peter Kay, Lauren Patel, and Reese Shearsmith. Directed by Nick Park and Merlin Crossingham. Available on Netflix. Yes, the always dependable Aardman animation returns to their two most iconic characters, Wallace and Gromit. I love Aardman. I don't think that there is a single Aardman film that I have not enjoyed. Nor can I pick any film of theirs that is the weak link, because they all have such a great rewatch ability to them. Um, and really, this is such a return for them. Like this kind of, with their arrival on Netflix here, this is kind of the staple of Aardman again, reestablishing themselves in 2025. And it's a great Britishness to it that I love. Sadly, Peter Sallis is not back to voice Wallace as he passed away in 2017. But there is the addition of Reese Shearsmith as the new character slash villain slash new character, kind of hugs the line Norbot. He's super adorable. And I don't know, Nick Park is such a filmmaker of cinema that he has all these really great nods throughout it, and in this film, given the mystery aspect of it, plays a bit into the horror side that I thought was really 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 fun. And I want to see more of that. I would like to see a scary Aardman. If Nick Park could pull off some kind of horror comedy with clay, just do it. Just bring it on. Um, Honestly, I think there are zero weaknesses in this film other than I feel like no kid is just going to organically click on this film. I don't know where Aardman or Wallace and Gromit themselves exist within a child's psyche. This is going to be one that you plunk your kid in front of and you just turn on and see if it hits. It still hits with me, but does it hit with the generation now? I have not a clue. I really don't have a clue. But this is a big win, I think, for Netflix getting one of the best modern stop animation film releases. And I hope that this collaboration continues because I'm down for way more Aardman. Yeah, just bring it on again. I see that a lot, but bring it on. All right, let's see what I added to my collection this week. Just a few off the top. DVD, that I think both of them are DVD. Both of these ones are TV. I got Star Trek Prodigy Season 2. Not going to ramp on this one a whole lot. This is Janeway's animated continuation, but for the kids. So if you have kids under 9, this show might interest them, given that it's more towards the science side of science fiction. So it's kind of fun. And it's got Janeway and it's got Chakotay in it, even though Robert Beltran, I believe, is a crappy MAGA, but whatever. Um, we don't need to talk about that. Star Trek Prodigy Season 2 is now in my collection, as well as the complete series of CSI Vegas. This was kind of the reunion resurrection series for the original CSI that brought William Peterson back, brought Sarah Seidel back. I definitely didn't bring Warwick Brown back. That's a whole different can of worms. But it managed to go on for 3 seasons, 41 episodes, each season of varying degree. It was like 10 episodes season 1, 21 episodes season 2, and then a 10 episode season 3. I don't know what CBS was thinking there. They were just going on some real weird shit. It's all DVD this week. Continuing, I got 2 films that I took absolute gambles on. The first one's a comedy called I'll Be Right There. The film has Edie Falco from Sopranos and Nurse Jackie, who I always like, and she was basically the reason I picked it. Charlie Tahan from Ozark is in this one. Bradley Whitford from Cabin in the Woods and The West Wing is in this one. Internet piece of shit, Michael Rappaport's in this one, and Michael Beach, who seems to show up in like every single Taylor Sheridan show that's made. You got a role cut out for Michael Beach, at least. I mean, um, Tulsa King and Mayor of Kingstown, he was in both of those shows, so makes sense to me. But it's directed by Brendan Walsh, who also directed Edie Falco on a handful of episodes of Nurse Jackie. So continuing that, it's basically character comedy of Edie Falco's character is somebody that does everything for everyone else and does nothing for herself until it's an absolute detriment for herself. So ensemble comedy, and looks interesting to me. And the last one is All Happy Families, another comedy. This film starring Josh Radnor, who looks a shitload like Ray Romano in this film for some reason. Rob Hubel's in this one, and John Ashton as well. Rest in peace, John Ashton, who just passed away, I think, within the last 6 months or so, who also reprised his role for Axel F., the Beverly Hills Cop movie that they did on Netflix. And it was so great to see him in that one too, but cool to see him in this one too. This comes from a writer director named Harula Rose. This is her second feature. Her first one was in 2019, a drama called Once Upon a River that actually got some solid reviews, but I don't think it got really that huge of a release. But looking forward to fully checking out both of those movies. And that kind of brings us to the end of this week's episode. But what are we going to talk about next week? Yes, taste of next week. And I got a couple that I'm going to throw at you next week. First off, another film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It feels like it's been a long time since we had an actual factual MCU movie, because did Deadpool and Wolverine really feel like an MCU movie? Not really. But we're going back to Earth 616 for Captain America Brave New World. Anthony Mackie is taking over the Captain America mantle in this film, and we get Red Hulk with Harrison Ford. But also, I'm sneaking in a look at the new family film, Paddington in Peru, the third Paddington movie. Be dragging Hannah to that one, so expect a review from her next week. But that brings us to a close this week. You can find me on Twitter, Letterboxd, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the Stevel Dead. You can find Chloe on Letterboxd at Honeybun Chloe. You can find all the episodes of this show on stevestebbing.ca or on the YouTube page. Just search up Steve Stebbing or the Stevel Dead. You can also find us on shiftheads.ca. You can also hear me every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Shane Hewitt and the Night Shift on Toronto's News Talk 1010 on the iHeartRadio network. And I've emptied out my list for this week, so I got to fill it up again. So until then, bye-bye.